Win a championship is not by yourself. It's with the team. You're going to need Oscar and you're going to need the team.
Hello and welcome back to a special F1 edition of 2CarGuys with Adam and John. So
What's
John,
up, guys?
Hungary, the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yes. Oh man,
Very
what
interesting
a
weekend.
what a great weekend though. Wow.
Yeah.
Whole lot going on. All the way from free practice to the race. Definitely an interesting weekend. Weather was a factor. Drivers were a factor. We had some really good stuff going on. So let's get into it.
I will say I'm glad weather wasn't as much of a factor as some of us were, fearful it would be.
Right.
I mean, even during qualifying, there was a little bit of moisture, but they still seemed to be able to run, slicks, which was good. Yeah.
But it called a couple drivers out.
It did. And I'll tell you, so we can get there, right? So let's talk about free practice, right? Yeah. Free practice. I think the biggest thing that happened right out of the gate was Leclerc putting it in the wall.
Right. So yeah, I mean, Leclerc, he wrecks. You're thinking this isn't great. That's going to kill Ferrari's chances right there.
Yep.
So that wasn't any fun.
Well, and the funniest part was he got on the radio and he said, touch left rear.
Oh, you touched the wall, rear left.
And I went back and looked at the video. I was like, dude, you didn't touch it. You slammed right
into
the
Arco. Yeah, you full on moved the barrier, sir.
Yeah,
I can imagine that did not do great things for the car.
No, I think the floor was affected. Some of the wing was affected. But I mean, you and I talked about this. I was with you. I was like, oh, they're done.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, man. I took him off my grid rival at that point. I was like, I don't need him on there. That's just, just going to be a problem. And then so I switched him with Carlos Sainz, and thought, this is going to be way better option. I did okay. I haven't looked at the grid rival, but I don't think I finished in front where I wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Well, then we had another hair raising moment, right? Because Zhou lost control of the car in the same place. Now, back up for 1 second. So Martin Brundle was reporting from the sidelines. I don't know if you saw that on your feed. We all saw it on the F1, on
the ESPN side.
Yeah.
So I watch F1 TV, so I may not have caught that.
So Martin Brundle's reporting from the field, and he's on the corner where Leclerc went off.
Right.
And they stopped recording right before that happened, right? So he leaves that area, and then the very next thing that happens is Leclerc puts it in the wall. Then in that same spot, right, Zhou comes through and literally 360s the car, and sends it right in front of Sergio. And I remember thinking to myself, God, this guy is lucky because he could have just taken it on the nose right there.
Yeah, he tried to blame it on Perez, which I thought was weird. And then also the line on it seems like any of the curbs, they were just wet. And that was calling people out. And I think he got called out by that.
I think he touched the rear tires on that line and just lost control of the car.
And then we get into qualifying, and you got the big news there is Sergio Perez, who supposedly there's clauses in his contract and all this stuff to be closer to Max. That wasn't good. He had a pretty bad off.
Yeah, I saw those reports too, that there are clauses where he has to be closer to Max. And if that's the case, I don't understand. I don't see how he makes it to Spa at this point.
It's going to get interesting. It's going to get very interesting. So we're going to see.
Yeah. So he has that huge off. He doesn't make it out of Q1. And then the other shocker in Q1 was George.
Yeah, George Russell. Yeah, he gets called out in Q1 too.
Yeah, but that was wild. More because of fuel.
Yeah, they said that he was too low of fuel to continue another run. So I guess he was going light as possible to try to get a better time and really put it in. And he had one chance to do it. He had to abort that chance, and there was no second run. Ran out of time. that's the game.
Yep. And I could see, I think the track was starting to evolve, because it was drying out. And even he could see that too, but he just didn't even get the chance to do it, So
I don't know why they would have went that route though, to do lighter fuel and try to get to that point, but I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll
Sucks
never know.
For him. And then
but then the big news in Q1 is Danny Rick at the top of the timesheets.
Improvement in the middle sector for Daniel Ricciardo. There's time to be found out there. Ricciardo goes fastest of anyone so far.
Danny Rick slaps it up there, man. I was like, yes.
I was so pumped.
What is this?
Oh my God, I was so pumped. I was so pumped.
Dude, that was awesome, man. To see him slap it up there, you're like, he still got it.
He still got it. He's still got it.
And then, and we talked a lot in other episodes, about Danny Rick, and like, we really want to see him do well. And you see that and you're like, man, this is that chance. And you're like, he did it once. Now we just got to do it 3 more times,
Yeah.
Or two more times.
2 more times. Yeah. 2 more times.
2 more times. Like, and he,
didn't happen.
Good for him, man. He got into Q3.
Yeah.
So good for him. It just sucked when it came to race pace. It just kind of didn't.
It did. But I mean, both the RBs made it into Q3. Even though in Q3, Tsunoda, that was a heck of a crash, man. Everything was broken on that car.
Oh my word. He launched off it up high into the barrier.
Okay, something happened. Sorry.
He was dragging the F1 sign with him.
Running wide, but you would have expected, Julian, just to see the rear step out on him, but it actually looked like the whole car just was like a magnet to the arm.
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is going to be F1's like future advertisement, because the F1 sign is just coming with the car. And you're like, oh, that's going to be their, this is going to be their, like their signage. Like, this is going to be on everything. Netflix is they're foaming at the mouth for this.
Oh, Netflix really liked the Hungarian Grand Prix. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
So it felt like forever between yesterday's qualifying and today's race. I got to be honest with you. It felt way too long.
Yeah.
But we get into today's race, right? And
I'll say the start of the race was pretty low drama.
It was
pretty low drama,
but right from the beginning, Max was having a tough time. And I want to say with the car, with the race strategy, you hear him coming over the radio and talking about how crappy the strategy was and how he was doing his best he could to
brake bias -5. So it's all to the rear just to get the car to rotate. And he's like, I can't turn this freaking thing. He's just fighting the car and just continually trying to do anything he can in the cockpit to make it better. And then his strategy is just garbage. Like, they did not do a great job with strategy. He got undercut by
his race engineer took it on the chin. I mean, oh my God, his race engineer did everything he could. He's like, and did you hear him come on the radio at one point? And he's like, this isn't the spot to have this conversation. You're just being childish. But
I mean, you got to understand, he's hot in the car. He's frustrated in the car. He can't get the car to rotate. He can't get it to do what he wants to do. He's doing all he can to manage this race, and he's seeing it fall apart. Mercedes undercut him the first time, and then Mercedes undercut him the second time with Hamilton. And I'm like, dude, and he knew it. He knew that was what killed his race. He was like, there's nothing I can do at this point. And so he was doing everything he could to push as hard as he could. And that ended up in some stuff.
Well, but he wasn't being patient. That was his big problem, right? I think if he was patient and waited, because it wasn't like it was the last lap. Right. I think if he was patient and waited, he was closing the gap on Hamilton. He probably could have taken him on the front straight on the next lap, but he wanted to send it up the inside. And when he did, he locked it up and he just had no control of the car and he just sent it, Yeah. And at that point, I mean, he ran right over Hamilton's tire. And I had a little bit of a like Imola flashback. You see the front of his car go up in the air.
It landed on him,
or the rear.
Stuff.
The rear of his car go up in the air, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, it was like
yeah,
that was wild, man. And he also, I'm saying that yes, he was pushing too hard at that point, but also I think he knew that his tires were just going to be dead by the end of the race. And,
I think so.
And I think that's why he was so eager to get in front of Hamilton as early as he could, because he knew that things were about to change.
He was definitely getting frustrated, though. You could see it. Yeah. You could see it.
Well, you could hear it.
Just the way.
You could hear it over the radio. It just got worse and worse for him.
Yeah, that was some of the most aggressive, and like you said, you're watching F1 TV, we're watching ESPN, and they're on there saying, this sounds like a guy who didn't get enough sleep last night. This sounds like a guy who did sim racing last night and then did sim racing in the morning.
That's what they're saying. Yeah, I heard all that too. But
I was like, I mean, I get it, but this is the same guy who did a 24-hour sim race and then won the Le Mans that weekend, or won the Grand Prix that weekend. I mean, so
he eats, sleeps, and breathes racing, sim racing or racing in Formula One, and that I don't think that affects his race. I think he was just having a rough race. I mean, and it was
something was up. Something was up. I mean, it was the car, it was the strategy, it was him. I think it was everything all combined was giving him fits. I mean, because from the beginning, he didn't even want to give the place back.
That's right.
And he's like, I'm not giving it back.
Yeah, he knew track position was going to be rough. and there was that, and then obviously we could fast forward a little bit and go into the whole Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris situation.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? So Oscar clearly has the better drive out of the gate.
Yeah.
And he starts pulling away from the group, right?
Yeah.
Now I will say that I do feel like Max held up Lando a little bit. I think if Lando was in second place and the Papayas had the opportunity to race, I think that that maybe there would have been a different discussion. Right. But he created a little bit of space, and it is what it is, right? So he gave the spot back, and then they started creating like a 2-3 second gap, right? So everything is fine, and then they give Lando the undercut.
Well, right? And I think as a strategist, he was like, "Hey, Lando, come in first," and I think that's where they made a mistake, and they knew it as soon as they did it. They were like, "Oh crap, we just undercut our own guy," and then they're backpedaling, saying, "Hey, give the spot back," all this stuff.
Well,
like,
and it's yours. Funny because he came over the radio and said, or Lando came over the radio and said, "Listen, if it was, if we didn't do it this way, I would have been pushing for the undercut, right?
Absolutely.
If we didn't do it this way, I would have been pushing for it." And so, when Lando was out there, I mean, he was pulling time on Piastri, and Piastri was what, 3 seconds behind. All of a sudden, we look down, it's 6 seconds, and it's like 6.5 seconds. And
Piastri, that kind of cut some of his time, and he was pushing because obviously he thought, well, I need to get this position, and he never actually climbed to a point where he could go get that position.
He didn't.
So if Lando hadn't let off and just gave it to him, like, we'd have seen a different outcome on this race.
I mean, now there was a big question whether or not even Lando was even going to do that. I mean, they were coming over the radio and they were saying, you need to save your tires in 4, 6, 8, and 11. Tires
they were just steady in his head about.
I mean, they got on there at one point and they said, this conversation is getting old, and then Lando came back on and says, "Yeah, it is getting old." And he said on there, if I had the opportunity, I would have undercut him. He needs to win for himself, and he also wants to win because of that closes the points gap between him and Max.
Right. And they're like, "Oh, there's going to be plenty more wins." Well, what if Red Bull comes with a major upgrade that truly works next race, especially at Spa? And it's like, I
mean, they could have cost him the championship. I mean, I think we all get that. I was seriously doubting, whether or not he was going to give him the space back. And what was really funny about it was they came over the radio and they're like, "Lando, you're going to need your team. You need your team to win a championship.
And you're going to need him." Yeah.
Yep. We're counting on you to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those times where I struggle with team orders. And
also, I mean, think about it like this though. I mean, this dude, you got to imagine the mental struggle that Lando is going through when they're in his helmet and he's like, "Dude, I can win this race. This can put me this much closer to winning the championship. This could be this much better." And, they're in his head like, "Hey, you're going to need us. You're going to need Oscar. You're going to need all this." And it's like the whole time, he's in a mental struggle of what should I do? And, then they're like, "You need to remember what we talk about every Sunday," and all this stuff. And he goes, and then it was a few minutes later, right on the last 3 laps or so, and he pulls off and gives him the run. And
I mean,
I think he should have gave it back sooner. I think he should have gave it back sooner, and then battled it
and
out.
I started saying, I agree. I fully agree with that. But I was watching that and I was like, oh my God, he's slowing down. He's slowing down. He's going to get the spot back, you know?
Yeah.
And I agree. I think he should have given it back to him much sooner in the race.
When they were 2 seconds apart.
Yeah. And then battled back and then got first place.
Yep. I agree. I think that's exactly how it should have went.
Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, if I was Piastri, is this how you want your first ever win to be remembered? That's
the key. And the big part of that, it just seemed awkward. Like
it was extremely awkward.
It looked awkward. It seemed awkward. It felt awkward.
Yeah.
And it's just like, is that how you want your first win to be?
No.
And, I know you could tell Oscar, but the one thing I was waiting for, and I wanted to hear it, and he didn't do it. And I wanted him to say, hey, I want to thank Lando Norris.
Yeah, he never said, I want to thank Lando Norris.
I want to thank Lando Norris. He said, I want to thank the team. I want to thank the people around me. I want to thank the car. But he never once said, I want to thank Lando Norris for this inaugural win. And he should have.
He should have.
I think that was a missed point on his part.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. It's a struggle, though. I mean, also, it looks great. How many different race winners have we had this season? Right?
7.
7 different race winners. I think we've had, and there's a list. We've had both Mercedes.
Both Mercedes, both Ferrari.
Both Ferraris.
Right? Both Mercedes, both Ferrari.
Both McLaren.
Both McLaren. And then one Red Bull.
One Red Bull. It don't look good for Sergio Perez, man.
Not good.
And they said they wanted him to get closer to Max. I think they just let Max get closer to Sergio now.
I mean, they were closer. They were closer.
But yeah. But no,
I mean,
it's
I will say though, when Max hit Lewis, I was worried that was going to be the end of Max's race, and I was worried that was going to be the end of Lewis's race.
Yeah. And both walked away. Both drove away with no damage, supposedly.
No damage. Yeah.
I would think there was some damage on the Red Bull. I mean,
but he only lost one place, which was kind of impressive.
Yeah, he had a recovery drive out of that hole after that. After he went off the track and came back on, he was flying back onto that track.
Yeah.
He knew, man. He was like, this is not good.
Yeah. Yeah. He only lost one place. So that wasn't terrible.
Right.
But yeah, man, I just, for the life of me, I can't think that Oscar's sitting there today going, I earned that. I'm so happy at my first win,
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree.
Just an uncomfortable place to be.
Not that he didn't drive most of that race and, winning most of that race. I mean, he did a really good drive at the beginning and all that. I would say 80% of the race was his.
Yeah.
It was when Lando had that undercut and just kind of, but I mean, that's racing, man.
It is racing. I mean, if that was McLaren and Red Bull and McLaren had the undercut, Red Bull could be as pissed off as they wanted to be about it. Their job is to catch up,
Yeah, exactly.
And he even told him, he said, Oscar's on the better tires. Tell him to catch up.
Yep.
He couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Yeah. But that was the race, man. It was a good one, though. It was a good race. I thought it was awesome.
I'm hoping, I'm definitely hoping for more wins, for more racing,
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be cool to see another race winner.
Maybe Sergio Perez gets the next one, man.
I mean, don't be crazy.
Hey, it's possible, man. I mean, the Red Bull's still a good car.
It'd be cool. It'd be cool if Danny Rick got the win.
Hey, that's what we need. Danny Rick for the W next race. Let's go. Is that our prediction?
No. So we got one more race. Spa's our next race.
Yep.
Should be interesting. Very high speed track.
Spa.
One of my favorite tracks. The issue I have with Spa is it seems to rain every year.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go, but I don't want to go, because of the weather. It's like, that'd be a great race to watch from my television.
Right. So we'll see. But that's this weekend, correct?
That is this weekend coming up, and then summer break.
And then summer break. Oh, it's going to be painful.
But we're halfway there, guys.
Yeah, we
halfway
got to
through
figure
the
out something to
season.
do without F1 for a little while. So
I think we'll fit some stuff in there. Maybe talk about some cool cars. I don't know.
Actually, I'll be at Car Week during summer break. In
Reporting
California.
live, the one car guy.
There you go. There you go.
Do it, man.
Well,
that's gonna be awesome.
Speaking of that, so our next episode that'll go live will be a first drive of the McLaren Artura Spider. So tune in to see that. That should be a good one. But yeah, we look forward to talking to everybody again on our next F1 podcast. But back to regularly scheduled programming here soon.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. Hit that button. You know what to do. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Peace.